Hey guys, it's Tahira, and today I'm gonna be talking about all the books that I read in the month of May. So May was actually a pretty good reading month for me. I read a total of 6 books, which for a lot of people is not a lot of books, and a lot of people read like way more, but for me it's a pretty good month, and it's way better than April because in April I only read like 3 books. I also didn't even do a wrap up for April because I just didn't even read that much and I didn't really feel like filming. So those books have been kind of lost to the void, but I'm here talking about all the May books. May was a really busy month for me. I was traveling a lot, going to a lot of different places. But traveling also means that you get a lot of time for reading because being on planes and trains and just you get a lot of downtime where you can read. So I was able to fit in reading into that, which is really great. But anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and start talking about all the books that I read, starting off with all my stats for the month. So this month I actually had a pretty heavy like skew to one genre. So I read 4 fantasy romances, 1 romance, and 1 literary fiction. So majority of my books were fantasy romance. I guess I was just in the fantasy romance mood this month, but the total of all the pages that I read was 3,049, which is I think the highest that I've had because I read a couple of like pretty chunky books, and then my average rating this month was a 3.13, which I feel like is pretty low, and I did definitely have some lower rated books this month. So yeah, not a great reading month in terms of like amazing books, but good in like the number of books that I read. So the first book that I read in the month of May was Quicksilver by Kalia Hart, and I ended up giving this a 3.75 stars. I read this for a reading vlog where I was reading like the most hyped fantasy romance books of 2024, and Quicksilver of course has been like one of the biggest books that has been talked about in the past year, so I decided to read that, and I had really high hopes for it because everyone has been really loving this book, and it's like a lot of people's like what their top books, like they're one of their favorite books in general. So I was really excited for this one, but I don't know, it just didn't hit for me as much as I thought it would. Like it was still a pretty good like fantasy romance, and I still really enjoyed the writing and the world and the characters, but it just wasn't that 5-star that I wanted it to be. This book is about this girl named Saris, and she lives in this desert city called Zilvarin, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, and she is stealing this like piece of metal that's worth a lot because everyone there is like trying to fight for their life. They're in survival mode. It's a desert, so there's not much water. People are starving, people are thirsty, so she's trying to sell off this like valuable piece of, I don't know if it's like armor or like metal or something, to try to get some money to survive. And she gets caught, and then something happens, and then this portal opens into another world, and that's when our main male character Kingfisher comes in. He takes her to this Fae world. She's a human, and she gets introduced to all of these new like laws and magic and everything that is part of the Fae world, and then the story kind of starts from there. So I'll link my reading vlog down below because it has all of my more real-time thoughts and like more in-depth review. But this one, like, I really liked at the beginning. I thought it was super action-packed, and I was really struck in the beginning of like how much I liked it. I don't know, I just really liked how it started off. It started off with a bang. Really, we jumped right into the action, and then it slowed down a lot, which I think hindered my rating a lot because after the first 100 pages it just slowed down so much, because after the first 100 pages is when our main character Saris goes into the other like Fae world. So obviously the plot slows down because we're learning a lot more about the world. There's a lot more world building. We're learning more about the magic. We're learning more about the characters that are there. So the actual plot itself like slows down, which makes sense. But for me, it just, especially because this is a pretty long book, it just felt like I wanted the plot to move a little faster for the middle chunk. I thought the ending ended in like a really fascinating way, and I am gonna read on to the sequel. I'm really excited about it. I'm pretty sure it comes out later this year. Yeah, the ending was super cool. I really liked how it ended. It wasn't like super cliffhangery in the way that I have to read it, but I definitely think it ended off things in a really interesting way. The romance I actually really enjoyed. I thought that some parts could have been like, I feel like the transitions between the romance like stages could have been handled better. I feel like they jumped from like different stages of being, for example, enemies to start liking each other to like liking each other more. I thought those could be handled better, but overall I did really enjoy the romance, and I'm glad that I read this book. The second book that I read was The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. I've been hearing so many things about this over the years, and this was my very first Ali Hazelwood book. I've been hearing so much about her and been wanting to get into her books for a while, and decided to pick this up because I wanted like a little bit of a palate cleanser, especially after reading a long fantasy book like Quicksilver. So this was the perfect read. I actually really enjoyed this. This one follows the fake dating trope. It follows Olive, who's a PhD candidate, and one day she kisses this random man, which years later turns out to be this like young hotshot professor named Adam. And it's sort of like an enemies to lovers, not enemies, and obviously because it's a contemporary, but more of like not even rivals, but just they have like a disdain for each other, and then they start this fake dating thing, and of course they start catching feelings for each other and everything. So it kind of follows that. I give this 3.5 stars. I actually really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it. I think it's really refreshing to see our main character being so involved in STEM. I feel like we don't really see like actual scientists in, like, even if there's some STEM relation, I feel like we don't actually see like actual scientists like working in labs, actually talking about the science of things within here. So I thought that was really fun and refreshing. But overall, it was a pretty quick palate cleanser, and I will definitely keep reading Ali Hazelwood's books. The only thing is I read some of the synopses for her other like STEMinist books that are within the same category as this, and they all kind of sounded the same. So maybe it's like what a thing of like, if you read this then you've kind of read them all. But I am still really excited to keep going on to Ali Hazelwood because she is such a beloved author, and I can definitely see why, because her books are like super cute, fast-paced, and addicting. Then I read On Wings of Blood by Briar Bolin. This one is a fairly new fantasy romance, I want to say, and it's been kind of making the rounds. I've seen some things about it. I first heard it because I am a part of the Fan Force book club, which Ravenhood Reader runs, and that was the book of the month, so I decided to pick it up. It sounded a lot like Fourth Wing, which was exciting because I like Fourth Wing. I think it's a really fun fantasy book, and although I know a lot of books are being compared to Fourth Wing nowadays, like, I was still excited because it had dragons and it has vampires, and I thought it'd be a fun setup. This one is about this girl who I'm completely forgetting the name of, and she kind of wakes up with no memory of where she kind of came from, her homeland, and she's suddenly surrounded by all these people, and she wakes up and suddenly she's betrothed, or she wakes up and suddenly she's betrothed to like the prince, if I'm remembering correctly. And again, she has no idea what's going on, and she's also enrolled in this academy called Bloodwing Academy. So this book also has like dark academia vibes and these magical school kind of setting. Anyway, so the book kind of follows her journey as she's getting to know more about her surroundings and going through the academy. I ended up giving this book like a 3.25 stars, so it's an okay book. It was very middle of the road. It didn't feel like something entirely new. It actually reminded me a lot of Harry Potter, like a lot. And majority of the book was her going through the academy, which nothing wrong with that, but a lot of it was just her going through classes and just dealing with all the other students there, because she has no magic. She's basically considered like a muggle in this world, or like a mundane, because she doesn't really have any powers, and she's surrounded by all these vampires who do. And there's sort of a hierarchy, obviously, because although like muggles are, I'm gonna call them muggles because I don't know the actual name, I forgot the actual name, but they're allowed to go to the school, but vampires obviously think that they're better than them, so there's this hierarchy going on within the social structure. But yeah, just overall I thought there would be more plot. There was a lot of, I feel like this book was a big setup for the next books, and I am intrigued to read on, but I don't know if it's like, it's not a super top priority series for me to continue on. And the dragons aren't even that like, they're kind of seen as creatures that existed long time ago but aren't here anymore, and although they're trying to bring it back like it's just not even like dragons aren't even a big thing in this book, which I thought there would be. And I wanted to know more about her past and where she came from, because we kind of start off the book with her like coming from this place that she doesn't even remember, and she kind of wakes up like literally with no memory, but it's like not even addressed. And then she goes into the school and it's just her going through school life with people around her and her friends. So I don't know, it was kind of weird. I just wish we got a little bit more of her actually, like her past and her exploring that aspect a little bit more, but I know that will definitely get explored more in the second book. I just don't know if I'm gonna be picking that up right away. I still enjoyed it. I still thought the ending was intriguing, but yeah, overall it was just an okay book for me. Then I read Enchantra by Kaylee Smith. This is the sequel to Phantasma. They are both like interconnected standalone, so you don't have to read the one to read the other. This one follows the main character of Phantasma, Ophelia's sister Genevieve, and it follows her as she goes to Italy, and she gets this weird invitation to go somewhere, and she kind of follows it, and she ends up in this family drama basically. Because there's this family of like brothers and sisters and this father who made a deal with some devil, and then he put some curse on his family, so his kids have to play this deadly game every year to kind of pay back or like keep the curse from spreading more, I guess. I don't want to say too much, but basically Genevieve gets involved in these games, and I would definitely say I liked Phantasma more. I thought Phantasma had a lot more like fun trials. I thought the trials aspect of Phantasma was better. This one is a deadly game, so I do appreciate that the author did something different and that she didn't continue on with the trials format, but I feel like the games, they were all kind of variations of hide and seek, and it kind of got repetitive after a while because I thought there would be a little bit more variation, but there wasn't. I still enjoyed the plot and the characters and the romance, but just the games aspect I thought could have been improved upon, and just got a little bit like repetitive after a while. But I ended up giving this book 3.5 stars, so I still really enjoyed it. Definitely not as good as Phantasma. Phantasma was one of my favorite books of last year. This was such an anticipated read for me, but I don't know if there's going to be another book. I think there will be. I will be continuing on because I just think these books are still fun to read. Then I read Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. This one I do have in a video that's coming up where I'm reading new releases, so I will be talking about that more. But I did end up giving this 3 stars. I had really high hopes for this one because I don't know, I was really intrigued by the fact that this was marketed more as a literary fiction rather than a romance. Kind of confused about that because it still felt a lot of it was romance focused. I'm not sure what happened. Like, I feel like it's still majority of it was romance, and I don't know why it was being marketed as a book that barely has any romance, because I completely disagree with that. But yeah, I liked the writing because it is Emily Henry. I really enjoy her writing, but the characters themselves were okay. I just did not like the romance at all. I thought it didn't really make sense to me, and it kind of just felt like they started liking each other because they were there, which I feel like happens a lot in romance. And the progression of the relationship was also super fast. It felt like they were going from like their first meetup, and after only a couple meetups they were like kind of professing their love for each other. And then the main story with Margaret and her like family story and everything was not super interesting. It was kind of just a family history with a family tree. I was actually confused a lot of the time because there's a lot of characters that are related to each other, and it just kind of got confusing after a while. So even that part wasn't super interesting to me, and nothing was really like grabbing my attention with this book, and I thought the romance could have been done a lot better. And I know it can, because Emily Henry has written good romances. Like, she's written Beach Read, she's written like Happy Place and Book Lovers, so she can write a good romance. Like, I don't know, this book just didn't hit for me, and I'm really sad about it because I was really looking forward to it. But I will keep reading Emily Henry because I know she has some hits in her, and I will just keep hoping that she will pop another one out. Then I read the worst book that I've read in a while, and that is Shield of Sparrows by Devney Perry. This one is another book that I'm reading for that new releases vlog, so I won't talk too much about it, but I did end up giving this 1.75 stars. I haven't given a book under 2 in a really long time. I won't say too much because that video is still coming out, but the plot for this one also got repetitive. Like, I'm talking so fast, but this one follows a girl. I don't know her name because I'm so bad with names and I forget them immediately, but she is in this kingdom where her father like orders these guys to come and kill these monsters, and in return they get his daughter, like not our main character but her sister, as a bride. But then these people come in and they're like, actually we don't want her, we want the main character. I'm forgetting her name for some reason. And everyone's like, what the fuck, like you actually, like you were betrothed to this other girl. And then they were like, no, we want our main character. So this main character gets married to the prince, like right then and there. It's kind of like an arranged marriage, and she's kind of whisked away from her kingdom and she starts joining them on their journey back to their kingdom. And she's also being sent in as a spy from her father to like kind of learn more from the inside. And the story kind of follows that, but I feel like we were kind of just stuck in the journey aspect of the book, and it didn't really feel like the plot was moving. The plot also got pretty repetitive at some points because the structure was kind of the same. I thought the monsters in it were interesting in this. There are monsters in this book that are sent from the gods. There's this whole lore behind the monsters. I thought that was interesting, but I feel like that definitely could have been explored more. And the way that the ending was, which was pretty interesting, I feel like that will definitely be explored more in the sequel, which I will not be reading. But yeah, just the writing. Also, the main character was asking so many questions. Literally every other page was just full of questions, paragraphs full of questions. And a lot of the times it felt the world building wasn't really world building. It was more like the character asking questions and people answering her, and it just felt a little bit too convenient, and I just did not like this book at all. Like, I don't understand how this book has such a high rating, and I just don't know why I didn't like it. I don't know. This book is also so long. It was 650 plus pages on Kindle, and I feel like I just wasted so much time reading this book, and I do regret reading it, actually. Like, I truly wish I didn't read it because I feel like it didn't, like, does it deserve less than 1.75? Maybe I'm being too nice, because actually I'm actually mad because I feel like this book has such a high rating and I don't really understand why. And yeah, like, no hate to anyone who liked it, because I'm so happy for you that you did, but just for me personally, this book just did not work for me at all, and I'm like really sad about it. Anyway, that is all the books that I read in May, all 6 books. So definitely not a great reading month. I don't even know if I had anything above a 3.75. I think that might have been my highest rating, which is so sad because I read a lot of like really anticipated books this month, and although like most of them were solid, like in the 3.5 and above range, I did have some duds this month, like Shield of Sparrows. But anyways, I'm hoping that June is a better reading month. It is starting to get into summer. The weather is getting warmer here in Washington too, which is great because usually there's a lot of rain going on, but finally it's getting more sunny. And yeah, but yeah, I'm really excited to see what June brings in terms of reading. I hope it's a lot of reading and that we get some good books. Yeah, let me know down below if you've read any of these books, as of course I would love to know. I will also link all the videos that I mentioned down below if they're out. But yeah, that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye.